Hi, I'm Joost de Boer and this is my new winter project. First, let's take a step back. 10 years ago, when I was just finishing my education at Academia of Fine Arts in Zwolle, I had a very specific theme for my ending exhibition. At this point, I was obsessed with the concept of communication between people, as it is the thing that kind of runs our world. Specifically, I was very interested in miscommunications. There were some things coming together. Let me explain. Just a few months before that, I was doing a minor in Italy, in L'Aquila. Also studying there at the Academia di Belle Arti, I finished with a project about dreams and the way that our dreams communicate to us, and what this means for our real-life communication with people. It got me interested in this idea of miscommunication. From my previous project, I got some stats that were really interesting to me about the subconscious and how it affects us, but also how much of a percentage of our communication is actually nonverbal, how much of our communication we control, and it brought me to this basic, very core idea of how much of what I'm trying to tell you actually arrives, and what is the version of the idea that I'm trying to convey that actually lands with you. I made some artworks that had to do with the idea of communication, that the artworks would actually communicate with you. So for example, an idea of a pressing issue that we all have, like dreams that we have where we are feeling the sensation that there needs to be something done. There is, for example, these universal dreams where someone is screaming but no sound comes out. I was trying to represent this feeling with my project back then, and now I feel like this project is not finished. It has been 10 years, but the theme of communication, miscommunication, is more important than ever. We recently saw the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and even though I don't necessarily agree with his standpoints, this is a shock because it was someone who was trying to communicate between both sides. We are more polarized than ever. I think this would be a super relevant topic to explore as an artist. Obviously, establishing a theme is not the hard part of actually making an artwork. So the question then becomes, how do you represent this in art? I think since we are going back to a theme that I used to explore 10 years ago, I'm also going back to a technique that I used 10 years ago. I will be burning and slashing on wood to make images. And these images will range from things that generally make people feel positive, soothing images. They might not be painted soothingly, to very harsh images that make us feel uncomfortable. Either way, I'm going to make 6 of these paintings on wood, which gives me 6 wooden panels, which also happens to be the sides of a square. Once I have these 6 paintings, the idea is to cut them up into squares. I can make these squares then into cubes, which would mean that we have cubes with the 6 images on their sides, allowing whoever buys my art to rearrange my artwork in whatever composition they like. You could put them on your wall and just change them every month, which is a nice feature, but not the point of the artwork. The idea would be that you can also combine the different images to form a new one. You can compose it in whatever way you like, and at that point we get to the core of my idea. The actual transition from me as a maker to the person who buys the art is part of the artistic process. It's basically what Banksy did with shredding his art piece, but in a different way. I prefer the idea to keep existing, the artwork to stay. But the key is that it is transformed. I no longer control the idea as it is entering the world. I think this in a way refers back to a problem, but also an interesting feature of our time, which is that an original idea can have certain great values, but as soon as it's put out there in this landscape where everybody can chop it up and make it into their own version, it can become a corrupted version of the original idea, which is happening times 1,000 nowadays with our ability to share our ideas so quickly. All in all, I would hope that this project will be a nice commentary on the condition of our time and the way we communicate. I think it will be really interesting. I would even like to kind of pack the cubes up in boxes and send the boxes almost like an IKEA construction package to people, or put it for sale in galleries. I don't have all the details yet, but more will follow. Obviously, since it is my project, I also kind of want to find out how it should incarnate. One thing is certain, for this project, I'm gonna work with the people that I usually work with and trust, which would be Atelier de Boer, owned by my father in Ermelo, and Galerie 158, owned by Margie Geerlings in Schiedam. They're just really amazing to work with, and I think the result will be best if I have their guidance. Now, something new in the mix this time is that I will also be working with a residency for this winter project, which means that I will be working at a place that's specifically designed to host artists and their projects. Also meaning that there are other artists there that I might work with, and I will keep you updated on that as well. I would love to show little bits of this project, so keep following along for the updates on how this process will develop. I think it is a really interesting premise, and I'm looking forward to seeing it being done.